to Deals with Heels, where female entrepreneurs thrive. I'm Debra, your host. Welcome to the show. Today, we are going to have a fantastic conversation about connecting with all of the right people in your life and pushing open all of the doors we need to get in. I'm really excited to talk to our guest. She's a very experienced podcast host, and I can't wait to learn from her. Her name is Melissa Llarena, and she is a best-selling author, coach, consultant, and speaker who has contributed to Forbes Women articles that have garnered over 4 million views. She is also the host of the Mom Founder Imagination Hub podcast, featuring guests like Beth Comstock and Gary Vee. She is the author of the best-selling book, Fertile Imagination. Please welcome Melissa to Deals with Heels.
Thank you so much, Debra. Thank you, listeners. I do not have heels. I have beautiful sneakers and a worn out soul, but that's okay. I'm still with heels in, prosperity.
Well, and I have loved heels my whole life since I was a child, even. I can remember, and my mom will tell stories about me looking for high heel shoes in the little kid department, but I'm pretty much barefoot right at the moment. My
The
feet
truth
aren't
comes out.
showing. The sun's, comfort first, comfort first. But we did definitely bond over high heels. Christina and I did when we first started the show. It was kind of a thing. And so it's my representation of female entrepreneurism, I guess, in the name. But I definitely want to hear your story. And I think just you telling kind of it will kind of give us the in and how you landed your big guest, because when I read your story, it's kind of incorporated in it all.
Yeah, I think, to kind of just share the moment when it all began, it was a typical evening in my house. I have 3 little boys, a husband. I'm cooking rice and beans, and my husband's listening to a podcast conversation between James Altucher and Gary Vaynerchuk. Looking back now, that was episode number 260 of the James Altucher show. And the reason why I know that is because my husband runs up to me as I'm there, slaving over the stove. And he's like, oh my God, Gary Vee just said that if you, or well, he didn't say you, but if someone, launches a podcast, has 3 episodes, and invites him to be a guest based on that conversation, that he will be that person's guest. And James Altucher, in the same breath, kind of said, oh, me too. Sounds simple, not so much. So that was something that overcame me. Like when my husband told me this, I didn't have a podcast. I did not have a microphone. No way was I even considering launching everything. But I was like, okay, this is a dare. I've just been dared. I've got to take it because that's just who I am. Like you become a mom, for anyone that's a mom. And it's like at your core, like, if you're a gangster, you're a gangster. Like you don't just become, a non-gangster, for lack of a better, opposite word. But yeah, so I took the dare, and it took about 100 days. And what I decided to do was to write a 1,000-word article each day. Mind you, I did not outsource my 3 children. They were still in my care. They were like, maybe 5, and 7. I have identical twins. And I remember, really trying to get their attention. So obviously I was like, including them in my post after every single article. I was making sure that I would, at the time, tweet them and, have them see this writing of mine, trying to curry their favor and get them on my podcast. Net, it happened on about the 100th day. I was at a pool school with my kids. They're there in their lanes and they're swimming so gracefully, not, but they're swimming. And I get a call, and it was some client that I had at the time. And she's like, oh my God, Gary Vee's going to be at a Foot Locker in Midtown. Come now. This is me. I'm a mom. I'm in Connecticut. And if you're not familiar, it's not like a walk to New York City. It's a bit of a quest or mission, maybe 2-3 hours all in. So I made it happen, as a lot of us do. When you're an entrepreneur, that's just how you exist, right? You make it happen, use what works, what you have. And yeah, I interviewed Gary Vee. So I said 100 days. And then James Altucher I also interviewed, but for him, I had to go to his comedy club in New York City and be at the front row, which is super risky because obviously they pick on you comedians. And
Hmm.
he picked on me. And then I said, hey, on Twitter, I said, hey, you picked on me. You're mocking my curly hair. Now, will you be a guest on my podcast? And he said, yes. And that was the same story. I had to last minute, these individuals are so last minute. And as like a mom, it's like, wow, this is so hard to do. But I figured it out. Last minute, I had to go to his house, but I brought people with me, and I interviewed him. And I didn't know how to plug in my podcast system. So I actually like got it wrong, but I did get the audio. That was like a miracle. That was like a microphone miracle. But yeah, that's how I got those two guests. That was the beginning of it all for me.
And in person, you got them in person.
In person, in the flesh. Oh, yeah, I could smell their breath. Yes.
A great way to put it. It's so exciting. You like launched a podcast just to get them for the dare and everything. So that would be intimidating for me, having to show up with all the equipment and have everything right. How long ago was this?
This was 2017.
Okay. So that's so awesome. And the creativity behind it, right? Knowing that where he is and showing up and getting down on the front row but you got him. I love that. I
Thank you.
didn't really get into my visual creativity until 2020 when I was in my mid 50s. So and I'm super creative, but a lot of it came out with creative strategy and creative ideas and things like that. And I worked in corporate America, and there were always salespeople, big competitive environment. And they would come in, we would come up with creative ideas to like get in the door of some dentist office they were wanting to get in to sell to, or whatever the business was. And I found it so intriguing because yours are huge names. They're not the person down the street here in Oklahoma City. So I was so encouraged by that. So who else did you get that wasn't involved in the original dare and the original saying, I'll be on anybody's podcast?
Yeah, so thinking about anyone that's launched a business and is a female and might feel like, wow, the odds are just stacked against you. I interviewed Susie Batiste, who invented Poopery. So if you don't know, you know, or you don't
Yes.
want to know, right? Like if you got a stinky bathroom situation, Susie came up with like, I'm just gonna call it a fragrance to mask or get rid of the stink. And she's a self-made multimillionaire on the Forbes list. And so I have no relation to Susie. She's based in Texas, which is where I am right now. However, at the time that I secured that interview, I was in Australia. My family and I, after Connecticut, logically decided to relocate to Australia because that's what you do. And it was not for a job, it was in the spirit of adventure. So, and this was during the pandemic. Yeah, I'll definitely tell you more about that. It was before. I did not know, right? We got there and we're like, huh, everything is amazing. And then we had wildfires and then the pandemic. And then like biblical level floods. But I still had a blast, funny enough. I could definitely talk about that. But when we were in Australia, and anyone that has a business, like you'll understand this, especially if you're like, a high ticket coach, right? Specifically. So anyone that's listening, if you're a high ticket coach and you do sales on the phone, like after, I don't know, one rejection, you're like not the happiest person on the planet. So after 300 for me, I decided while I was in Australia, let me refocus from coaching individuals who were based mostly in the US to writing my book. So that set me up for that journey because I was like, I need to be away from people during the pandemic moment, but then also kind of restarting the podcast. And that's where Susie Batiste comes in. So with Susie Batiste, what was amazing about that was that because it was a restart of the podcast, like I had a little bit of downtime. And so Susie's like, and this was just me like reaching out to her like a stranger to a stranger. And I don't talk to like PR agencies or gatekeepers, which is why my process tends to work because I find a way to engage with the actual talent on the other side as a human who's truly interested in her story, and her story resonated with me. So what Susie told me was, sure, I'll be a guest on your podcast, right? I had like the Gary V, I didn't have Beth Comstock yet at the time, but I had some other names. And she said, but you have to get at least one big name before me. And that's when I decided to go for Beth Comstock. By the way, that was the second time I had gone for Beth Comstock. With Beth, she was the CMO of GE. I mean, she was there at the top. This was, 9/11, even like years ago. She's the one that had the Statue of Liberty. I think it was in the New York Times, where it was like post 9/11, and it was just saying like, we're here to fight back, sort of a thing. So she's
Mm-hmm.
super well known in the marketing advertising world from a corporate perspective. So net, I had asked her maybe a couple of years before, and this was after asking Gary Vaynerchuk. The funny thing is that I really thought she was going to make me work really hard for it, like Gary Vaynerchuk. And when I
Mm-hmm.
emailed her, this was on LinkedIn, it wasn't some sleuth, spy sort of initiative. She basically just said yes, like immediately. Granted, my pitch is effective, but still, I was like, oh, she's going to make me work for it, right? And it caught me by surprise, which is wild. It caught me by surprise. And for that, I was intimidated because to your point, Deborah, you were saying, oh, it would have made me nervous to get all the tech together for Gary Vee, all of that stuff. But for me, I felt like with the Gary Vee and the James Altucher, I had 100 days of pouring my heart out
Yes.
digitally. So I
And,
kind of felt like I sort of quasi earned it in a way. But with Beth, it came so quickly that I was like, oh my gosh, who am I to? Right. And so, you
Mhm.
know what I ended up doing? I dropped the ball that first time because I was so intimidated. So here I am years later in Australia trying to get Susie Batiste, who says you must get someone big before I can be on your podcast. And then I was like, okay, and I was coaching clients at the time. So marketing executives were people that I supported on their job search. And so basically I helped my client like have the courage to network with like big players in her sector. And I said, here's what I'll do. We'll do like a double dare kind of a thing, right? I
I
call
love
it courage
doing
and community,
I love
right?
doing coaching. You do this and I'll do it too.
I know. I call it courage and community, right? So it's like, okay, we'll lock arms and we'll both do the big scary thing together. Ready, set, go. And so I went, and this was so simple. It wasn't like I hopped on a plane because it was the pandemic, but I went back to that same LinkedIn message and I said, I am so sorry that I did not take you up on the opportunity years ago. Totally understand if you choose to decline, but I'm actually really interested, in interviewing now. And I dropped the ball because I was so intimidated. So I came up and I told her exactly what I told her. Like, I mean, what's going to happen is the pandemic. It was a kind of extreme moment. So I was like, hopefully all of this is in my favor. She said, yes, I did not drop the ball. And I actually interviewed her. And so that was the way that, I was able to then go back to Susie. And then Susie's like, okay, this girl's like crazy. Like she actually did what I said. And I interviewed Susie Batiste. And Susie Batiste actually wrote, I forgot if it's called, not the foreword, but it's like a little blurb on my book, Fertile Imagination. And so I had her, she's actually in the book. She says this, she's like, whenever you're feeling stuck, peruse Melissa's thoughtfully compiled tips and exercises, and you'll be creating magic in no time. Susie Batiste, Poopery. Like, I was just like so smitten, so
That's
smitten.
fantastic. I love that. I love the tenacity behind it. And you came at her with your authentic self saying, man, I dropped the ball completely. And I'm sure she understands too that it's like you did, you had 100 days to prepare yourself for the other guys. Right. So you kind of knew what you were going to talk to them about because you'd been writing articles on subjects that they like for 100 days. But with her, you expected to have to do a little bit more. And so the moral of the story is be prepared, even if you're not expecting them to say yes right that day. Right.
Yeah, I know. And I would say like that, it also taught me something. And I think that, anyone listening could kind of resonate with this, but like sometimes you don't have to work so hard. Like I feel like, I don't know if it's like a female thing or what, but it's like, okay, here you are trying to prove yourself. And for me, I have felt that usually it's because I'm trying to prove something to myself Like I'll put myself in these like really wild situations that I'm like, oh, can I get out this time? Not petrifying, but just like challenging, whether it's to write a book and self-publish and be a number one Amazon bestseller, or birth my children the way that I decided to birth my three children. And sometimes it doesn't have to be so hard. It's kind of weird. It's something I'm learning. Like I'm 45 and I'm like thinking to myself, okay, please, wisdom, come to me now immediately. So I never have to learn this lesson again. But it's like, yeah, it's one that comes quite often.
I have oftentimes said, I do not need to learn this lesson again. Do not even start to try to teach it. You see, I've learned it. I'm not repeating that bad behavior. But
Fingers crossed. Yes.
I think a lot of us end up in that hustle culture, right? Where we've got to hustle for everything. If you're not hustling, you're not doing enough. I certainly have been in that myself, especially coming from corporate America. But I think it's also because I raised 5 kids and they're all grown now, but you feel like you have to be Supergirl and kind of do everything, and the only way to do that is to kind of hustle it out. As I've gone through my spiritual journey, letting go is really important, and accepting and knowing that no matter what it is, it's going to be fine, and just thinking positively about it. So I love that you like put your mindset. I'm a big mindset person. You set your mind to it. I'm going to do it, that challenge mindset. And then you just accept it. But I'm doing this and this is going to get me there. It's such a big thing that people forget about. They think about the difficulty of it, and that makes it difficult in a way.
Yeah, and it takes energy to think about the difficulty of things and to work yourself up in terms of worrying, like is this person going to decline me or say, you fool, like I gave you the opportunity in 1987 and you ruined it and you're horrible. No one has said that to me yet, like I mean, if it happens in the secret recesses of their mind, it's a whole other story. But I feel like these conversations that I've had with myself, before a situation actually happens, are way more like extreme than they actually turn out to be. So hopefully that's something that can translate for anyone that's listening, right? Like maybe like in your life right now or like in your business, there's like a decision that you're just like, oh my goodness, but if I choose A, then, Z shall never happen. If I choose B, then this other thing won't happen. And a lot of things can be quote unquote reversed. Takes energy, but there's some sort of grace in this whole world I believe in that we can leverage and count on.
I completely agree with that. You have to really just let it be for a little bit and accept, I'm going to take this action and it's going to get me where I'm supposed to be. Sometimes where I'm supposed to be isn't where I think I need to be or want to be, but the path is always there, and trusting it is so important. And you brought up your book, and what I really liked about the title and is how you say that fertile imagination is a mom's superpower. Can you talk about that a little bit? We have a lot of mompreneurs that listen to my podcast and listen to you, but I would love for you to explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, I have so many stories that really depict what the output or the possibility is like once you actually activate your fertile imagination. But this one just really paints the picture quite well and makes me just laugh because it's ridiculous. So I launched my business in 2011 and I only had one son at the time. And I think he was about what, like 6 months. So my very first client sales meeting happened at a Le Pancatine in Midtown Manhattan. And I brought my 6-month-old on my Ergo Baby carrier. And so my client was trying to land an opportunity in investment banking, super serious, sort of like, oh my goodness, I'm wearing a suit every day kind of a thing. And so I knew his wife. And so it was his wife and it was him. And so there I am, launching my business. And I have this Word document with like 3 prices, right? And it's like you have A, B, C. He's like $1,000 for work. I mean, basically working myself to the bone for like 30 days. It's like, you will get your 6-figure blah, blah, blah job. And I get $1,000, but then be the breaks in 2011. So I had my baby. Fine. I was like, all right, I'm having this sales conversation. It's already like a nerve-wracking thing, right? But with my child, my first one was extraordinarily nerve-wracking. Okay. So my prospect's wife decides to carry my baby. And so she's carrying my baby, and here I am having the conversation. And then all of a sudden, she runs over to me and she says, "Oh my God, Melissa, smell this." My baby had the biggest diaper blowout you could possibly imagine in the middle of that beautiful restaurant, right? And I had to, using my imagination, figure out how to change my child as a first time mom in a tiny New York City bathroom, and then somehow come out with a straight face and not stinky situation. Although to tie it together, I could have used Susie Batiste poopery, right? But I don't even know if she invented it by at that point.
I don't know either.
Right? But I had to come out of that bathroom looking all like businessy again, not like yucky, And
Like
so
felt.
just those moments, right? It requires a heck of an imagination. And I think as moms, anyone that's a mom or anyone that cares for someone else, where you feel like you have more things that are outside of your control than within your control, chances are you have had to use your imagination in a way where you can almost like stack the odds in your favor, right? So it's kind of like, okay, here I am in this restaurant. I have a kid. I have one diaper. I have one hand I could use in a tiny little space, right? Even those little logistical nightmares really require so much thinking and creativity, right? And all of a sudden, like that one diaper becomes the changing pad that you didn't bring. Like, we know this. This is not like unique. This is what every mom has had to figure out along the way. And because oftentimes the stakes are so high, like, oh, I don't know, it's the next generation of your entire family. It's almost like we're forced into a situation where we just have to figure out how to make things work. We have to be like the MacGyvers, right? Of like our communities. So imagine if, as a parent, you've had to make things happen that feel like magic, straight up David Copperfield or whatever. You use the same exact skills, right? That nimble mindset, the ability to just kind of think outside the box, not even a box. We don't even have boxes as mothers, right? Like, I don't even know what we're operating with. Okay, so ultimately, when I was thinking about the book and fertile imagination, for me, it only makes sense because as a mom and anyone that's listening who's a parent, we've all had to figure things out where other people may have not found solutions. Like we've had to be really creative, like the MacGyvers of like our communities and our homes to just kind of get out the door. Like, I mean, there's been so many moments where, and I had identical twins after my firstborn, but there were so many moments when I just ran out of the door, like totally ill prepared, forgetting something, whether it was that second diaper, right? Like, I know, and it sounds pretty drastic, but like I would always find a way. I would always find a way. And I think it's that quality that a lot of moms tend to like whether you're working in a corporate setting or you have your own business, chances are there might be ways of marketing your business. There might be ways of, acquiring clients. And we might see those templates out there, and we might, hire coaches and experts, which of course is always a good thing if you want to accelerate your learning. But at the same time, don't take for granted the fact that you are infinitely creative. And what might be the situation is simply that your imagination, specifically your fertile imagination, which is the ability to think in a way that, another mom may have never been able to think, right? So you may have never seen another mom I'm making this up, but be like a Grammy Award winning singer. Or you may have never seen another mom launch a business or wear high heels during a marathon. That exists. It's a real thing. I've seen it. I haven't participated. So all these like novel ideas and situations that you may have never experienced or witnessed a mom in, that is what a fertile imagination lets you actually visualize for yourself. as well as the path towards that end goal or outcome. And so in the book, it's really about rediscovering that sense of opportunity and endless like possibilities for you as a parent. And it helps you whether you are totally sleep deprived. So it's about, reawakening your imagination, which does begin with mindset, to your point, Deborah, and also making sure that you appreciate the fact that you are creative, right? So it's really a lot of self awareness that happens. And then it's about playing with that imagination, right? That's the second step. And so the book is categorized in three different sections, the last of which is stretching your imagination. And that's really when you start telling other people your dreams, your visions for yourself, your aspirations, the outcomes that you want to see in your life. And so, whether you're launching a business or you're in a corporate setting or you're a mom, you can always figure out a better way for you to design your life, design your career, design your next chapter, which to go back to that idea of going to Australia, that was us using our imagination, me and my husband. Like that was not something that was planned nor expected, like at all. Like we were looked at like aliens actually by our family members when we said, and we're both from Queens, New York, my husband and I, we said we're going to relocate our three kids and us to Australia for no good reason. Like literally that idea was planted in the mind of my husband, and then I was a easy sell-in for that one from a logo. A logo of the Sydney Opera House was what inspired our curiosity and idea to actually get to Australia. So, yeah,
I love
like
the adventure of it and that you're both so adventurous and open-minded to it. It speaks to your open-mindedness for success. You have this way about you that it's just attainable. If I just am creative enough and I think of a way, it's attainable. So when your husband makes a suggestion, maybe we should go to Australia, you're like, okay, well, we could do that. If that sounds like fun. And it's not something that is so far-fetched and you can't even visualize it. It's completely on the table, something that's doable. We just have to have the right steps. Everything will be fine. I think that is such a great lesson, and it just exudes from you. And we get so stuck in our ways that our brain likes what's familiar. It likes to stay in that pattern. And I think when we have the symptoms when we're doing something new and our heart kind of get a little butterflies in our heart, I always use it. I say it's excitement. The physical symptoms of excitement and anxiety are very similar. And we're just so used to framing it negatively that it probably am excited about it, but it seems like I'm worried and I'm stressed because that's kind of how we frame a lot of things. But you don't at all. So fantastic. I really, really love it a lot. I
thank
want
you.
to, we're getting closer towards the end, and I wanted to have you give us some tips on opening those big doors. Like you got people to answer. I can tell you the number of LinkedIn pitches I get in LinkedIn, and I am none of the famous people that you got people to answer you. What are some great tips you can give us for that?
Yeah, so I think with anything, you have to distinguish yourself, right? So, like, let's just imagine this idea. Typically, people are very hesitant to reach out to these big names, right? And so, of course, what's within their comfort zone? Emailing people, resharing like these sort of posts that these people post. Like, that's just like level one. That's level one. Once you birth a baby, for me at least, I was like, look, dude. Like I just like created like three dudes and I did it in a way that was pretty badass. So in my mind, I was like, I don't know why, but I'm going to use this confidence and this courage in my other life categories. So basically, if everybody is operating online, you have to distinguish your approach. So operate in person, right? So for example, with the James Altucher, I went to the comedy venue. I was in person. I was right there in the front row, right? So that completely distinguishes you. Now, and I had a guest that was based in Canada and asked me how I got James Altucher on my podcast. And so that's different, right? Like if you're in a different country, not a problem. But still, that didn't stop me from doing it when I was in Australia to people that were predominantly in the US.
And I'm in
So
Oklahoma
again,
City. We don't have a lot of big name worldwide players here. There are some that, and you're right, I'm much better. I can get somebody in person. But what about if I'm having to message? Like you were in Australia and they were really far away and you were still able to get them to answer you.
yeah, so you have to distinguish your approach there too. And here's the fun fact: people have phone numbers listed. See, again, if you're emailing people, you're just like everybody else. But if you have the guts to text or call someone, if you have the guts to do a video message like that's tailored to that person, right? Then
Mm.
you're going to distinguish yourself. So that's one side of it, right? So that's just like, not platform, but kind of like it's omni-channel approach, right? So like whether it's this, that, or the other, it's like be online, be offline, whatever it takes, whatever's going to distinguish you. So that's one. The second one is you have to be sincere. So if you really are going after someone and that person smells that you're just using them, like that's so common, right? That is so expected. These individuals are being asked for things all the time. But if you're sincere, so with Susie Batiste as an example, like I knew that she had been abused as a child. I knew, this is all public, I knew that her family had manic depression and my mom has manic depression. So I was able to communicate with a great deal of specificity that her story resonated with me and this is why. Okay. So when I put together my questions for Susie Batiste, like I emailed her my questions for the podcast, and she actually appreciated my questions because I wasn't asking her about her morning routine or how she gets amazing hats, although I was super curious. I was asking her like the big questions that someone that's been in my shoes and in her shoes would appreciate, right? So you have to be sincere. If you have some other agenda, they know. Like it's just like come on. And in that case you have to just decide for yourself, like are you going to go and like burn a bridge that was never built, or are you going to really just hold out, until you're like sincere about it, right? Like you really want to meet someone maybe that was born in Oklahoma and now they live in Tahiti. I don't know, I would
Or
love
that
to go to
resonate
Tahiti.
with you and your personal story, right? So
Yeah.
they know you're making an authentic connection. You didn't just pick somebody simply because they were famous and had a lot of followers. Something impacted you, something made you connect with them. Being
Yeah,
able
for
to
sure.
convey that's really important. And it is very difficult to do in an email.
Yeah, it is, but it's also it is because everybody else is trying to communicate in that way, right? So I tell people like my strategy, this is what I call it for my clients. So I sell them, this is the short supermarket line strategy, not the long, like unless you are a glutton for punishment, like do you really go on the long line at the supermarket? Hey, I know I'm like totally dating myself because people don't even go and they do those like, online things, but I still go. Okay. And I choose a short line. And that's the
Mhm.
same thing. So if people are very active and very like follower rich on Instagram, then I'm not reaching out to them on Instagram. I'm reaching out to them on LinkedIn as an example, right? So that's the other thinking. And then I would say the third thing is, you have to put in the work. That's the third tip. You have to put in the work. So, as with anything, like if you're actually putting in some effort, whether or not you get the interview itself, it's important to just show that you are a hard worker and you will be reliable. So not, and I say that as I'm thinking about the Beth Comstock thing, but I didn't like secure a date. So it's not like I didn't show up. I just didn't
Right.
respond to that. No, but you have to prove that you are willing to put in the work, right? So these individuals, they reach that level of success, they have that reputation, and you have to demonstrate that you're willing to put in the work as well. So for me, I guess that meant 100 days of articles on medium.com, which you could find, by the way, if you're super curious. You want to see me like almost like dying day 88, like just kind of like giving up, like, oh, I give up. Yeah. my articles are still live.
That's fantastic. I love that. Well, folks, as you know, when we have a great guest, the time goes super fast. But Melissa has a way for you to get, I think, a free chapter of her best-selling book. Tell everyone how they can do that and how they can connect with you if they want to find out more about all of your services and your great stories.
Yes. So just go to fertileideas.com and you will be able to grab one of my favorite chapters where I interviewed a Sesame Street Muppet puppeteer. And yeah, that was so cool. I mean, it's
That has
Hoots
got
the
to be
Owl.
cool.
Yeah, it was Hoots the Owl. I mean, I know that that name resonates if you have like a 3-year-old, I guess, in your house. But I'm
Right.
just such a fangirl. And so he is a demonstration of what it is to play with your imagination. And I share my story of playing with my imagination when I took a storytelling class actually in Manhattan. So that is from my book, Fertile Imagination, Every Mom's Superpower. So yeah, just go to fertileideas.com, grab the chapter right there. The book can be purchased on Amazon or everywhere that you buy books, even places you don't buy books, actually. So Audible, I believe, has it on audio for free. So that's an option to you too.
That's awesome.
And following me, I love, and I know this is going to sound so boring, but I'm going to be myself. I love LinkedIn. I know, so weird, but I love LinkedIn. And if you're a female entrepreneur who is trying to snag these big name guests for her podcast, that is where I've turned to. So find me on LinkedIn, Melissa Llarena, and I will accept the connection. Just tell me that you are from Deals with Heels, and I'll say yes.
Fantastic. I love that. You can find all of her information in our show notes and all of my information. And of course, you can download my free ebook, 5 Steps to Having a Mindset for Success. And that'll be in the show notes as well. Melissa, what a fantastic guest. I can't wait to air the episode and go in and get your book. And I might have to get it on Audible and I can listen to it when I'm driving up to see my daughter. That would be a great way to be invigorated when I go and see her.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. This was amazing. And I hope that your feet don't hurt because heels are funny little things.
There's some special inserts I'll send to you and you can wear them and they make you high heels not hurt anymore, at least not
Nice.
as badly as they do sometimes. They still have to be certain ones because they're too high. I can't do it. I'm too old for that. But boy, I do love the high heel, as everyone knows. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Please share, download, and tell your friends about us. And until next week, we're out.